Larry, I know that during Monday's town hall debate, the time frame for the questions are short because there's a lot to get through. But I know that you had wanted to expand a little bit more on your thoughts on RDA2, and a question did come in via email about that, about explaining the advantages of RDA2 project, as it seems to be a positive addition to the economy, but the people opposed to it say it will cost the taxpayer money. Oh my goodness, cost the taxpayer money. Can you elaborate?
I can, and yes, the time to answer during the debate was 1 minute, and that's a 15 or 20-minute conversation with somebody. I hope it don't take that long tonight, but I have had some conversations with people that have lasted even up to a half an hour, explaining the benefits of RDA2, and they finally understood, and they like hearing the facts. So what I'd like to do is first of all, during the debate, I believe it was Commissioner Nelson who thinks that RDA1, which was up in North County, which gave us the Walmart Center, the Best Buy Center, and Home Depot and Target, that redevelopment area he thought was not successful. I can tell you, I don't understand his logic, because the taxable sales in RDA1 were increased by some $500 million annually. And that's probably an increase of sales tax of $32 million annually, which Douglas County gets a good portion of. So I think RDA1 was very successful. We had benefits that were not only actually in the RDA district, but we had benefits that went as far as Genoa. We were able to complete or still in the process of completing the water loop, the water loop that really creates a lot of redundancy here in Douglas County from our Douglas County utility. So there were a lot of benefits, and at the end there was some $3 or $4 million that was remaining in the RDA, and under NRS, those monies must be used in the RDA district. And fortunately, the town of Genoa was included in the RDA district, so we were able to allocate well over $1 million to the town for refurbishing their town hall and some other improvements in the town. And of course, Genoa is very, very important to Douglas County because of their tourism that comes to that town to visit the wonderful things that are there. So we were able to do that. We were able to also set aside, I think, $2.1 million to complete. Can't think of the name of the road now. That goes from Indian Hills up to Douglas to Costco. So that will be completed, and that will provide us an emergency exit for people coming north that are, say, clogged under, say, the Highway 395 is probably now will now have a secondary exit. But let me get back to RDA2. First of all, there's a little history here. We have that dates back to 1997 when the state of Nevada created the enabling legislation that created the Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority. The state recognized back in 1997 that the state line and the tax revenue being generated at the state line and the visitation being generated at state line, by state line, had declined. The revenue declined even way back then, and so that the legislation enabled the TDVA, the Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority, to be created, and the legislation also created a 1 cent, I believe it is, TOT, the Transit Occupancy Tax, which funds the operation of TDVA, and their main function was to promote tourism in Lake Tahoe. and specifically in state line. So that's where it dates back to 1997, and you know, we've seen it develop over those years. When I was running for county commission back in 2016, I supported the RDA2 up at Lake Tahoe at the state line because I recognized back then that the county was losing over $1 million a year in tax revenue, property tax revenue, because the casino assessed values were declining. I didn't know very much about the event center back in 2016, so I wanted to definitely learn more about it, what its function would be, and how it would impact Douglas County. So, and of course, you know, some people may not be aware of this, but 32% of the workforce in Douglas County is connected to the tourism industry. 32%, 1/3 of our industry is related to tourism. So we have a big stake in making sure that the casino corridor is successful, vibrant, and contributing to our economy. They were contributing, I think maybe it's still about the same, 39–40% of our general fund property tax revenue, and we needed to protect that. And when I learned about the event center and what it might do, it was going to be owned and operated by the TDVA, and they work in the constructed, excuse me. But I knew that they wanted to have Douglas County participate somehow, and what they wound up doing is asking the county to dedicate monies to help them pay off the bond that would be used to construct the event center. But the event center itself would hold some 130 events a year, whether they were concerts, conventions, meetings, what have you. And what that does is, what they call up in the hotel business, it puts heads in beds. And people come to an event, they stay in hotels, they spend their money here, and it's a wonderful thing to have that kind of impact on our hospitality business. You know, Lake Tahoe is one of the top 10 destination resort areas in the world. And I know there was a comment at the debate that stated that the Reno Event Center only produced, say, 30% of what it was originally supposed to produce. Well, that's Reno, and it's not Lake Tahoe, ladies and gentlemen. And I believe that people from Austria or Europe or wherever, if they have an opportunity to hold a conference or come to a meeting in the United States, I think Lake Tahoe stands a very, very good chance. So the event center cost is approximately $100 million. And the TDVA is going to float a bond for that construction and initial operation of them. And they've asked the county to dedicate, you'll hear this number a lot, $34.25 million of the RDA tax increment. I'll explain that in a minute. They've asked us to dedicate that $34.25 million over a 25-year period, so that that would go to pay off part of the cost of the event center. It represents about 19% of the total cost of the event center. What my opponents and some people fail to realize is that the $34.25 million, which is taking money out of the general fund, some of that is going to the general fund normally, or the schools or the fire department. What they fail to realize is that over that same 25-year period, the event center itself will generate about $1.6 million a year in additional sales and TOT tax revenue. That equates to a net gain to the county's coffers of $6 to $7 billion over the next 25 years after you deduct the 34.25 million. So it's a win situation for the county, but because the opposition only thinks in small increments and doesn't look at the big picture, they conveniently forget that particular aspect of the event center.
Hey, Larry.
Yes.
There was a couple of questions on RDA2 that came in. One of them, I think, is what impact on the county is there by losing the additional TOT money? What is it now and in the future, and how is this going to help in the future? Which I know you're kind of digging into that question, but
Well, are you talking to the loss in TOT from the COVID-19 crisis? Because I thought I covered that. Well, I think what a lot of people seem to think is that all the taxpayers in Douglas County are paying for this event center out of the 34.25 million. That's the furthest thing from the truth. The reality is that the only people who are paying into the RDA district with their property taxes are the people and the businesses in the RDA district at state line. Those are the only people, and that district consists of the casino corridor, Edgewood, and the Tahoe Beach Club. The only entities that are in that district. There's not going to be one dime taken from the taxpayers that reside in the Carson Valley to be used to pay for the event center. It's very important to understand that. What they're trying to do is they're trying to drive a wedge. The opposition is trying to drive a wedge between the Tahoe Township and the residents of the valley. And we can't let that happen. The Tahoe Township has tried once before to secede from the county and start their own county. If that were to happen again, where will we ever get 40 or 45% of revenue from the state line currently produces for the county? So I don't know if that answered your question, but it's the loss of revenue that they talking about it yesterday at the debate board on Monday was the loss of revenue from the COVID-19, I believe.